What's going on, everybody? First off, I want to say thank you for everybody who has supported and is continuing to support me along the way. Secondly, all of the links to all of our media pages and the website, which will soon be up and published, will be in the descriptions here soon. But all of the current links to everything that we have is already in the description. So make sure you go ahead and check those out. If you're not subscribed or following on any of the platforms, make sure you go and do that so that way you can stay up to date on everything. And if you would like to support my ministry so we can continue to further get better equipment and be able to better give you guys a better experience as viewers, you can do so over at Patreon. That link will also be down in the description. So this video is going to be a little bit different. This is my personal testimony of my walking away from faith and my coming back to faith and everything that happened in between. So we're kind of going to just dig right into this. And I've been struggling to share this one for a few days now. Well, really for the last week since I first said that I was going to do it. But I need to do it. So let's begin. So I was born and raised in the church. My parents were originally from Indiana, and my mom was a Pentecostal Christian. My dad was born and raised Lutheran, so he didn't really believe in like the gifts of the Spirit, speaking in tongues, healings, things like that at first. And they moved to Michigan, and then they got pregnant with me and they had me. And at the time, they walked away from their faith, but ended up coming back to it. And they ended up coming back into the faith by deciding that they wanted me raised in the church. Because even at that time, and this was 26 years ago, the world was still full of evil, but not like it is now. So they walked away from the church and they came back to it. And they got me in the church as a young boy. And I was raised in the church. I knew about Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit, but I don't know that I ever truly walked out a life of faith at that point. It was more just me walking out my parents' life of faith, if that makes sense. So by the time I was in high school, I was homeschooled, and that didn't stop me. I got in with the wrong group of kids. I got in with the wrong crowd. I started doing drugs. I started drinking. I started partying every weekend. And I was still going to church, and I would still call myself a Christian, but I was not a Christian at that point. I didn't truly believe at that point. I walked away from my faith, and I continued down this path of destruction. I continued with the drugs and the drinking, and I had premarital sex. I got really addicted to pornography, and I let it control my life. I did. I got to say, I was probably 15 going on 16, and I got my first job. And at that first job, I stole a company owner's credit card, and I used it to buy music on my phone. What kind of music, you might ask? Well, that would be secular music. That would be rap songs, anything that was not of God. And I used that credit card, and I did that. And that was something that I had to deal with at the time. I ended up getting in trouble for it. I ended up catching a juvenile adjudication is what they called it, because I was still a juvenile at that point, so they couldn't fully try me as an adult. Well, I did not learn my lesson. And I continued with stealing. I continued with petty theft. I was stealing from Walmart, movies, clothes. It didn't matter. Anything I could get my hands on, I was just taking it because, you know what? Screw the world, right? Mine. I had that mindset. And I continued with that until I was 17. And when I turned 17, I went through a couple of girlfriends at the time. And when I was 17, I was still doing drugs and alcohol. And I had a buddy who is no longer a friend. And he texted me. He said, "Hey, you want to come over for a party later tonight?" I said, "Yeah, I'll be there." Because I'm at all the parties all the time. That's just who I was at that point. And then finally, earlier in that day, I started drinking, and I popped a couple of Xanax, and I got blackout drunk. And I got in my car at the time, and I went for a drive. Didn't care where I was going. Didn't care if I killed anybody. Honestly, I didn't. And I just drove, and I ended up at his house before the party. There was nobody there, so I thought. And the door was unlocked, and I walked in his house, and I stole a TV. I stole a PlayStation 4. And then I went back out, and in the driveway, I took a hammer because he had another friend that was not a very good person either. And I tried to blame everything that I did there on him. I wrote die in the driveway with the end of the hammer, things like that. Like just, Father. And so I wrote die in the driveway, and it is not something that I'm proud of. Even to this day, it's not. So I went home with it after I took the PlayStation 4 to the pawn shop, and I sold it and traded it for a PlayStation 3, trying to, maybe they won't catch me that way, right? Boy, was I wrong. Anything done in the darkness will be brought to light, guys. Just keep that in mind. And so I went home still blacking out, and I passed out, and he kept calling and calling and calling, and I didn't hear it. I didn't wake up to it, nothing like that, because I was blacked out. And after I woke up the next morning, I seen this TV and this PlayStation 3, and I'm like, what did I do? And it really sunk in and hit me. And through that mess, I ended up catching an attempted home invasion charge. It's 2nd degree. It was a 5-year felony. It's still on my record. And I don't know that it'll ever come off. I don't. I mean, I've looked into it. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that it's something that I care if it does come off, because it's part of my past. It's part of who I am, and it's part of what made me who I am today. And so after I woke up and I did that, I ended up driving back over there with the TV, trying to, take it back to him and stuff. And it didn't work. It didn't. So I caught that attempted home invasion charge, and I ended up sitting in jail for it. This is prior to a couple of probation violations, or this is after having a couple of probation violations on my record from my juvenile adjudication, because I originally got sent to do 3 weekends in jail with that. And then I messed that up, and I had to go spend 60 days in Benzie County Jail in Michigan. And I did my 60 days, and I got out, and I thought I was a changed person, right? Nope. I ended up catching that home invasion charge. Well, I was on the straight and narrow for a little bit after I caught that charge, and I was doing pretty good. And then I fell backwards again, and I caught a probation violation. And I ended up sitting again. And after I got out that time, the girlfriend that I was with, she left me. And I'm probably 17. Nope, I'm 18 at this point. And so this girl messages me on Facebook, and she's like, hey. And so we start talking, and come to find out we have a lot in common, right? So I'm 18. This girl that messages me on Facebook is 17. And we kind of hit it off. And so we start dating. And even to this day, this girl, she is my wife. I love her to death. She stayed with me through so much that I put her through. And I'm trying to keep my thoughts together here as I do this, okay? So just bear with me, guys. And so we, like I said, we hit it off and we start dating. And it was probably not even 6 months. It was probably 3 months after we started dating, I proposed to her. And she said yes. And then a year later, we got married. Well, in that year time, I caught another probation violation. And I sat for 90 days in the Osceola County Jail. And I remember it so much because in that time in jail, all you have while you're in there is to be able to sit and think, and that's it. Yeah, they have TVs. Yeah, they have these day rooms and these outside areas and stuff like that. And you might talk to people and they'll say, oh, jail's just a place that you can go to get away from your wife for a vacation. I'm here to tell you that is not how it is. It will break your spirit. Whether you think it will or not, it will break your spirit. So I did my 90 days in jail. It was hard. After I got out, I got a job working at Story Roofing out of Buckley, Michigan. And while we were up in Petoskey doing a job, I decided that I needed to go to the gas station one night while we were at the hotel. This was after work that night. So I started walking to the gas station, which I could see from the hotel. And I'm about to walk right into the parking lot of the gas station. This cop pulls up behind me and flips his lights on while I'm walking. And he says, "Hey, I was concerned for your safety, just checking you out, blah, blah, blah." Runs my name. I have a probation violation. What this probation violation was for was my wife and I did some babysitting, and some stuff happened. And I'm not really going to get into that because I'm not going to bring this lady into it. There's no need for it. I've forgiven her. I don't need to bring her into it. Some stuff happened. I got a probation violation and I went back to jail, right? At this point, I'm probably 2.5 years into my probation, and I'm sitting at the Wexford County Jail waiting to be arraigned on this probation violation. And my PO officer, my probation officer, he looks at me and he goes, "You have done so good up until this point." He's like, "You've had a couple of mishaps, a couple of things, but I can tell that you truly don't want to continue down this lifestyle." And so he tells me, he's like, "We are going to push for a dishonorable discharge off for probation." But he's like, "That means this one thing. If you mess up again, you go to prison." That hit me hard because I knew that what I was doing was just destroying my life, destroying my future wife's life. And so after that, I got dishonorably discharged, I was on the straight and narrow. But where I was going wrong shifted. I started being really, really nasty towards my wife at home on a day-to-day basis. And I was just being so nasty towards her that it wasn't fair. I was mean. I would get physical sometimes. And even to this day, it breaks my heart. I have done so much crying over my life. I have had so much conviction over my life, but it's not done yet. And so even through all this stuff that I was doing to her, she stayed faithful and she stayed with me. And her best friend had a son. His name is Josiah. And his dad is a POS, for lack of saying it. And he kind of walked away from him. And so I stepped up and I started raising this child as my own son. And even to this day, I still raise him. He is going on 6 years old this year, and he is my son. Not legally adopted, but adopted through Christ. He is my son. And I can honestly say between him and my wife, those are the two things that changed my life around. Me and my wife, we still have our struggles because of the stuff that I did in my past and the way that I was towards her. But if there's one thing I can say to you guys, it's that Jesus will save even the brokenhearted, even the people who might not say that they want to be saved. He will save you. All you have to do is be willing to accept it, to open up and let him in. Even to this day, my wife, she is my biggest supporter in everything that I do. Everything that I have ever wanted to do, she supports me, whether or not we're making money, whether or not I have an income coming in. She supports me 100%. And if it wasn't for my son, I can honestly say, guys, that I would either be dead in a ditch somewhere or I would be in prison for a long time, because I don't know that if it wasn't for those two and through the power of Christ working through them, that I would still be here today to be able to tell you guys my testimony, to be able to share with you the gospel of the Lord, and to be able to open your eyes to the evil that is in the world, because there is so much evil. On a day-to-day basis, I get attacked by the enemy so much, especially since I started this ministry, because all he wants to do is stop it. All he wants to do is not let me win, not let me be victorious through the power of Christ. And it's taken me a long time to get to this point. This is my first time ever publicly sharing my testimony. And I personally don't feel like this is a testimony of a lot of importance or power. But again, I know that's the enemy attacking me. That's why it's taken me over a week to get this video up. I just I am so inspired by what Christ has done in my life that I want to share it with you guys. I was victorious because of him. You can be victorious through him as well. Don't let the enemy win and control your guys' lives. Don't let addiction win. Don't let the pornography control your lives, guys, because that was the biggest issue after I got out of the stealing phase was the pornography. I would watch those videos on a day-to-day basis, and I can honestly say that I'm about a year free of the pornography addiction. And even still to this day, I can close my eyes and just recall what I was watching or what I was seeing. It is that powerful, and it will hold on to you. Don't let it win. Don't let Satan or the enemy win in your lives, guys. You have so much more importance than what is going on that you don't even realize that God can use even the most broken people. God can use you. I hope that my testimony helps somebody. I hope that this is something that somebody needed to hear. And if it is, and you have any questions, my number is on my ministry Facebook page. My email is equippingspiritualwarriors@gmail.com. We have a WhatsApp. All of that is on our Facebook page. Please, if you are struggling or you need prayer or you need help with anything, please reach out to me. I am here for you. I will pray with you and for you, and I will just be an ear to hear. It does not matter. Whatever you need, I am here. Please don't let the enemy win. Thank you for listening, and I hope somebody was touched by this.